You are listening to the e-flux podcast.
The following conversation between Raven Chacon and Xenia Benivolski was recorded after Raven's solo performance at e-flux on April 27th. Solos is a series of short, improvised works performed in quick succession. Using a variety of acoustic and electronic instruments, Chacon's experimental compositions range from sparse, minimalistic soundscapes to complex, multi-layered works that incorporated voices, noises, and found sounds. The podcast will begin with a short clip from Raven's performance at e-flux, followed by the conversation. Raven Chacon is a Pulitzer Prize-winning composer, performer, and installation artist from Fort Defiance, Navajo Nation. Since 2004, he has mentored more than 300 Native high school composers in writing new string quartets for the Native American Composer Apprentice Project. As a solo artist, collaborator, and a member of Post Commodity from 2009 to 2018, Chacon has exhibited, performed, or had works performed at San Francisco Electronic Music Festival, Red Cat, Vancouver Art Gallery, Site Santa Fe, the Whitney Biennial, Documenta 14, Canada International, Canada Museum of Art, and elsewhere. Chacon is a recipient of a United States Artist Fellowship, a Creative Capital Award, Native Arts and Cultures Foundation Artist Fellowship, the American Academy Berlin Prize, the Bemis Center Kaneko Award, and the Pew Center for Arts and Heritage Fellowship in Residence. Xenia Benivolski writes and lectures about visual art, sound, and music. She is the curator of the project You Can't Trust Music, which is an online e-flux exhibition.
Thank you, e-flux, for having us. And thank you, most of all, Raven, for this really incredible series of vignettes and beautiful solos that you played tonight. I have so many questions, but I can only do a few. So, Raven, last time we talked, you were just sort of coming off of your Pulitzer win. I think it was just a few months ago. How, if anything, changed since? How's it been? How's it going?
Yeah, no, it's been crazy, but it's really nice to have a piece played more than once. You know, you write these things and you think, oh, maybe get it played once, maybe twice. I think this is going to be the 7th performance, so we're doing it Saturday. That's one of the reasons I'm in town. We're doing it at the First Unitarian Church, Brooklyn, Saturday afternoon concert. I think there's still tickets left. It's part of the End Times Festival. So if you go to their website, you'll find info on it. And yeah, it's been, I mean, the other thing is that I've been on the East Coast. I'm usually based in the Southwest, but relocated to Hudson Valley, New York. So that's why I'm doing all these gigs in New York. Because, yeah, it's so easy to get around, you know.
Can you tell me a little bit about these instruments that you were using tonight?
Yeah. For the most part, I mean, some things I don't talk about because then other people will start doing the same set. But, you know, well, I used to make a lot of instruments, very rudimentary things, like snare drums that would feed back and using guitar pickups and things like that. One of the instruments I used to play is a audio cable that has a photocell in it, and playing on one end of through one end of the cable is a recording I made of myself driving around New Mexico, speeding up and slowing down, and you know that goes through the cable and comes out the other side, but you can only hear it if light is shining on the cable. So it's an instrument I can only play in pitch black darkness with a flashlight. So it's my drum, you know, woof, 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 stuff like that. But I stopped using those because I'd break them. You know, I'd play like 4 shows in a row and they wouldn't work anymore. So and then I'd get up here and like nothing would work. So I stopped doing that, and I use more, you know, pedals and things. But the 2 main instruments I always play is this tape recorder, this Walkman, and inside of it is an answering machine tape. Remember answering machines? So like the one when you'd call the dentist and they weren't there on the weekends, and it just said an announcement like, you know, we're not here, come back on Monday, and 30 seconds loops on that tape. So that's my sampler. That's what I use to loop things. And other things are my voice. Everything's almost, you know, purely generated from my voice. So yeah, a lot of these like sound like bird sounds. Those are me. There's also some other calls, like elk calls. This little thing comes from the Audubon Society. You can order these. They're like $7, and it's a bird call, and it's like a friction thing.
It's
so
like
that's
very birdy.
Yeah, that's my favorite instrument. And then there's a speaker that beams sound, and I usually play just pink noise out of this because pink noise has this ability to mask other sounds. So sometimes I can beam a sound at somebody and only that person will hear it. Other times, if I beam pink noise and I'm playing other things, that person might not hear the other things. And so that's another instrument. But I use it like a shaker now, like a rattle. And then at the very end, I was playing a recording of my grandpa. My uncle found a cassette tape of him singing 45 years ago, 50 years ago on a trash can, and just singing some songs that he composed. And so I wanted to give him a solo at the end. But yeah, everything's tape, pretty much tape, sine tones, pitch shifters. Yeah. The mixer is the main instrument.
There's also the silence, which kind of becomes really punctuated after you finish a solo.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many sounds out on the street. It's like you just, I don't have to, that's like a good changeover, switch between instruments and just let the motorcycle or whatever out there play.
How long have you been making noise music for?
Oh, since I was 16, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of decades, you've also had quite the art career. Do you feel like does your artist self and your musician self, are they separate or are they together? Does participating in the art world change the way you make music or vice versa?
I didn't know you could do this kind of thing in the art thing, I didn't know. It's like, it's e-flux, so it's like to come talk about music, what it means or whatever. But no, I mean there were things I was making that didn't fit on a cassette tape or a CD or on stage. They didn't even fit on a score. There were things I was making and I didn't know what to do with them. And somewhere in there I realized, like, oh, there's like this sound art thing, and that's where these things fit. And I still didn't really know how to present those though. And it wasn't until I joined Post Commodity, a collective I was a part of for 10 years, that I start, we all were kind of learning how to show work and how to integrate sound and video and all of the different skill sets that we had in that group. So I learned a lot from that experience,
Yeah. I think when I first met you, we were talking about earlier today, you were kind of working with a Robert Ashley score. But now you're also, you produce a lot of your own scores too. Do you still work with other people's scores, or do you just mostly produce your own? And
yeah, I mean, I've been composing music since I was a young person, probably like 12 or 13. My sister and I took piano lessons. My sister Nani's here. She's an artist also. And yeah, we took piano lessons, and that's where we learned to read music. And so I was making my own scores back then. And that's a very separate practice from the noise stuff. It's rare that I, do noisy classical music or whatever, or make a score for this kind of, I mean, this is all improvised. It's just, I put all the stuff on the table and just go for it. But no, that was a project we did with this collective, this Indigenous Women First Nation collective Ositsiwan in Edmonton, Alberta. And they had roped in Alex Waterman, who had done work with Robert Ashley previous. And so they were wanting to do the Robert Ashley score, the In Memoriam Crazy Horse, because they were like, why is there a Crazy Horse score? It's like, we should have Native people do the Crazy Horse score, right? And I was like, I don't know. I guess so. But we did. And it was really, what I really liked about that was, I like being a performer of other people's music too, or collaborating with people, improvising with other people. But if I can, play somebody's score, then I put myself in that position also. But also it was a way to learn about, how those scores function. And so in a lot of ways, they were influential to this work I did that I showed at the Whitney last year, these scores called Forzi Kalasha. And so those were dedications to 13 Indigenous women musicians and composers and performers. One of them was written for Laura Ortman, who's over here sitting. So, that a score could also be a vehicle for narrative, or, even be a portraiture in a way. So these are just one-page scores. And I don't know if we have any more books out there. I'm selling some merch out there. So there were some books out there earlier.
I mean, you've seen your scores performed by, really formal, like huge orchestras and like in very large settings. What's the relationship between your noise practice and the sort of like really formal composition practice that you have, like, for example, like Voiceless Mass? Or do you see it as sort of like the same thing?
No, they're pretty separate. The scores themselves range from the graphic scores, like the Z Kalasha scores, or Voiceless Mass is pretty, specifically notated. And, there's not any kind of improvisation in those things. Whereas this is complete improvisation and, trial and error, really. But yeah, I keep them separate. I mean, I don't process classical instruments just because for myself, I'm still feel like I'm learning how those work. I appreciate the sound of a clarinet, bass clarinet, and I don't know what else electronics could do to it that I haven't been able to keep discovering new sounds with it. So yeah, I think I still learn from the classical instruments.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious too about the name of these performances. You name it solos, and I'm sort of just thinking about the kind of role of the solo. I guess like solo has a particular trajectory in improv music, but there is also like, I guess when I think about a solo, it's also kind of the place where music can go in a different direction, or it's like sometimes it's like a bit of a change. How do you think about the solo?
Well, it's just me up there, it's like nobody else.
Right.
I was thinking of it like each like an instrument would do a solo on an instrument, even though there's this other backing, I don't know, layers of other things happening. And but it's always a solo when I'm doing a solo set. But I was thinking more of the form, like the short form, like miniatures. Maybe I should just call it miniatures, but that's too funny of a title for e-flux.
So serious.
No, solo sounded better. It was and so instead of going up and doing like a 40-minute, 45-minute thing, it's like I didn't want to repeat myself, so I was like, why don't we just do these short like 5-minute things, and they'd each be solos.
What are you listening to these days?
Well, I really, when I listen to music, it's usually live music. Like I like to go to concerts. I really don't listen to recorded music all that much because I'm usually working on something. And if I keep listening to something, even if I love it, it might enter the piece. So I don't want to do that, because I found myself doing that one time, like melody or something. It's like, that's the thing I was just listening to. And it's like, be careful, It's like, so I try not to taint, even if I love it, it's something, it might be something I've never heard before. And it's, so I find different times to try to do, have those kinds of listening experiences. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I go try to go to concerts whenever I can, and see music like that.
Cool. Well, I guess maybe we'll also take a couple of questions from the audience.
Is there a grasp of sound from your sounds you made from a young boy to today? Is there something that still shines through with your sound?
Yeah, it was trying to make I was really trying to make instruments. Like I tried to make a guitar when I was a teenager, and tried to make some circuits later, and they didn't work correctly, or they're really bad. There's like one string and a 2x4, and it wasn't wired correctly. And I was like, we'll just put it like a distortion pedal on it, and like cover it up. So yeah, that like just like it's it's not perfect. This answer machine tape, it's not like a clear, like clean sample. It has a little break. So I like that. I like the flaws of all of it. I hope it all works, but it's not. They're not perfect instruments, or it's. I like the kind of raw, unwieldiness of this setup, and so I like that. And I always try to put some kind of element in there. Like I shouldn't know the instrument too well. Like as an improviser, you should know your instrument inside and out, forward and backward. And I always like when there's something I don't know what it is, or what it's going to do.
I was wondering, with the je ne sais quoi of like winning awards and performing and like being on stage and all the stuff and talking about your things and getting like fancy questions all the time. It's like, how do you manage to find the joy, to keep the joy amongst like the pressure and like as your career has sort of moved through, to be able to create and stay, engaged?
Thank you
seem
for
engaged.
assuming that. Yeah,
you seem engaged. So I'm like, how? Please.
I think it's to jump around different practices, to come do this, then go do the chamber music thing, then go do an art thing, and I think jumping around like that. I mean, it's a lot to manage, but I think it has allowed me from getting burned out, even prevented me from getting burned out of certain things. I mean, I used to go and do this like a lot, like go tour and do like 40 shows in a couple months, and that's fun, but it's it gets tiring, and but you develop something when you do that, and when I write one of these chamber things, it takes a long time for me. It takes months, so when I'm done with one of those, I try to give a break and do something else, and that's the only way I think I can answer that. Yeah, it's just to switch it up all the time. Yeah. Thank you.
So I wanted to talk about the performance you're doing on Saturday, because that's the performance that you won the Pulitzer Prize for, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically you get it's part of an orchestra, right? And you're using all local New York musicians. And you said earlier that you listened to a lot of music through actually seeing live shows. So I was wondering if that was part of the process of how you sort of picked these musicians, because it's a lot of musicians performing on Saturday, and you've done this piece in several different cities. So how does this work?
Yeah, it's one of the nice things about having a piece that is getting performed a lot is going to different cities and collaborating with different musicians, different types of musicians. I've done this piece, I think it was the second or third concert. It was more people from, classical, true classical background, no 20th century music, all, 17th and 18th century music. And they did a great job. They did a version that I thought was beautiful. And I did it in Austin, and there was students at the University of Texas, and they did the piece great as well. And it was slightly different, it was their own way of doing it, and they worked really hard on that piece. For this New York premiere, I didn't recruit the musicians. That was Bob Bellarue of End Times, who's a very dear friend and longtime collaborator. So I've played almost every End Times festival, and if you all are looking for other concerts this week, I encourage you to go to the festival. But so yeah, he put this one together, and the really beautiful thing is that he recruited people from the local experimental improvisation community. So there's a lot of players like that who play. Some of them have played here. I mean, I can't name all the names, but Laura's in it, Luke Stewart, Gabby Fluke, Mogul, a bunch of people. Bob is also playing sine tones. And then, yeah, we're using a church organ, and that's what the piece is based around. So yeah, it's going to be, again, a very unique version, and I'm really happy that I get to have these great players be a part of it.
I think it's really cool because it's almost like gathering so many musicians that play in the experimental music scene and having them in one place. So it will be sort of a chance to hear everything at once, Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it will be really cool.
Yeah, I'm really honored all these folks have been learning the piece.
In your work, you often talk about counter narratives and sort of radical ambitions. Do you think that music has the capacity to kind of, have real critical impact on the way things are?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I put a lot of faith in that. I think, one thing that is certain to me and that I've become aware of is just the impact of how improvisation or experimental music can change a person's life if they have not been exposed to that. So, having a community around this kind of thing is really, really beautiful. They go and gather, and you play for 5 people, it's fun, and it's really nice, and all of those people in that room might be musicians too, and you learn from each other, and it's its own community of people. So I think that in itself is something that can create impact, and can even be can even be something political. We're seeing more and more access to music, and like I said, I mean, you just need to get like one of these, and that's it doesn't need to be expensive gear. That always seemed like a barrier, I mean, like to have like, save money and get a synth or something, or like, or places to play. And so for me, I mean, these were all, we just go out in the desert and go play, and like, and eventually somebody opened up a space in Albuquerque. We start making music there, and yeah, so it definitely makes you see and hear the world differently when you do it enough times.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for coming.